Your websites and sales funnels are arguably the most important part of your sales process when you're running, especially an online business. So how can we optimize our sales funnels, especially using GoHighLevel, in a way that makes them user-friendly, interactive, and most importantly, pushes people to take the action that we're looking for in order to grow our business and serve our community, whether that is getting more opt-ins, booking more calls, or making more sales? How can we use HighLevel along with other tools in order to generate the best possible sales funnel? These are all good questions that you should be asking because of how important your sales funnels are to your business. They're literally the one place where all of your customers go to. So if you fix the one thing that all of your customers see, this can make a massive impact in your entire business. So in this video, I'm going to be going over my design principles and how I design sales funnels in order to market to my customers, showcase my products, and get 50 to 100 leads every single day using my sales funnels. My name is Andrew. Welcome to How to Use HighLevel. I've got some exciting tips for you guys that I can't wait to share. So let's dive right in. As always, we've got three parts that we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's dive into the very first one, which is design. We're going to be talking about a lot more than just design, but let's talk about design first. We have two types of design: user interface design, which is UI, and user experience design, which is UX. And both of them play a key role in designing sales funnels and our entire business. When talking about UI and UX in the context of sales funnels and websites, UI is the look and feel, the branding, the colors, really how your website feels and conveys information to your customers. UX, on the other hand, is what customers experience when they're using your website, how they interact with the site, what it feels like whenever they're navigating through the site, and what we're trying to direct them towards as an action on our sales page. And both of these play a key role in our website design and in our sales funnels in HighLevel. So how do I promote good design principles quickly and easily using multiple different tools and HighLevel? Well, let's dive into that now. Now, most people design their websites and sales funnels on HighLevel by doing something as simple as going to sites, funnels, and then making funnels from either blank or from templates on HighLevel. A lot of people start with templates because why not? I tell lots of people to do that because there's almost 1,000 different funnel and website templates that you can pick from on HighLevel. And these all seem great. They look good. They're clean. They're easy. And there's some of them that are better than others. For example, this one's better than some of these. And there's some that are better than others, some that have more in-depth backgrounds. For example, this is a great website. It looks fantastic, but it is lacking just that something, which I'm going to show you how to integrate into your HighLevel sites right now. But it is lacking something that it and most HighLevel templates and HighLevel websites lack. And that is thoughtful design. See, most sales funnels are just designed to be websites, pieces of information, or things designed to showcase information to customers and get them to book a call, get them to opt in, or get them to make a sale. But when it comes to HighLevel's templates and HighLevel's teams and the way that their website builder is designed, it's really designed for developers. It's not designed for designers. So how can we take a designer's approach to our sales funnels? Easy. Go into designer communities. And I have three that I'm going to be showing you today. The first one is Figma communities. If you look up Figma community, or you just go to figma.com/community, and then you navigate to the website section, you can see portfolios, businesses, blogs, wedding, photography, and landing pages is one of my favorite ones, especially for making sales funnels. Now, Figma, if you've never used them before, they are a design tool. They're a software even bigger than HighLevel that lots of designers use in order to design interactions, websites, landing pages, and things like that, which means the people that use Figma and the people that contribute to their community are actual designers. They know it looks good, they know what works, and why reinvent the wheel when other people have already made thousands of templates that we can use and that we can get inspiration from and implement into our HighLevel. Just when you go to their landing page library, you're immediately going to see a huge difference from what HighLevel is promoting in their funnel template library compared to what Figma is doing in their library. You have stuff that is way more outside the box, a lot different, more striking. Design that really communicates a brand. It's not just information, it's branding. And there's a completely different look and feel to almost every single different Figma website. They're not cookie cutter websites like a lot of HighLevel templates are, and like how your website or sales funnel might feel right now. Let's just take a look at this one. This one is by Figma. It's free, and we can preview it right now. Immediately going to this website, you immediately feel something completely different than what you feel whenever you go to a HighLevel website. And that's when we kind of get into the space of UX. Now, of course, you could screenshot this, use these colors, use these fonts, and design something like this in HighLevel that's going to look great. And that's really along the lines of UI. But whenever we're looking at this in terms of our text, our imagery, and how this guides our customers to learn more about your product and eventually contact you or commit whatever action you're trying to get them to do, you're going to immediately see that these sites do a lot better job of it. They're enjoyable to go through. They're enjoyable to scroll through. We have natural animations that really make this engaging. And of course, it's different. It's not just another sales funnel that people are going to on GoHighLevel. Striking imagery, good contrast, animations, and thoughtful engagement are how we really perfect our UX when it comes to making a good sales funnel. Now, of course, stuff like this is more unconventional, and you can use the more templated, regular types of sales funnels that GoHighLevel gives you. But what's really powerful is when you can combine these two together. Take inspiration from sites like Figma and plug them into your GoHighLevel templates. Add in different ideas and thoughtful design elements in order to improve your GoHighLevel websites and make yourself stand out with your sales funnel. Now let's go to another community which I love, which is Framer. Framer is a website builder really designed for designers. So it's similar to Figma, but it's more for the production, building websites and launching websites. Now, if you haven't used Framer before, it's really cool. It's a little bit more complicated because it gives you a little bit more options to run things as opposed to what options GoHighLevel gives you, but they are absolutely awesome, especially for getting templates. Man, there are a lot of Framer templates that are free and that you can even just preview and get some ideas about what you want to do with your site. If we take a look at some of these templates, we already have over 3 times as many templates as what GoHighLevel gives you with their funnels and their websites. So you already have way more options in order to get some ideas about components and elements you can implement into your business. For example, let's take a look at this website right here. We could totally design something like this in GoHighLevel. It would take a little bit of work, but you wouldn't even think to design something like this unless you've seen it first. I mean, stuff like this really makes really cool interactions and makes you stand out. Of course, if you want to build websites on Framer, you totally can. I have a website agency and I build websites on Framer, but I've also just taken elements and ideas from Framer components and implemented them on my GoHighLevel websites. Now, the last place that I would go to look for inspiration for your sales funnels is Dribbble. And this is Dribble. So 3 B's, dribbble.com. You can find their community and look at a lot of the different things that they have, including just branding packs, things like elements, components, things that you can actually download and then use on your site as images. These things can help a ton whenever you are using GoHighLevel because you can just integrate these things automatically on your sites. Feel free to go through a few of these communities, get some ideas for your sites, and then implement them on your GoHighLevel. Now, the second thing that we are going to look at is accessibility. This is short, but it's very important. And the most important part about accessibility is twofold. I would say, first of all, visual accessibility. How easy is it to read your website? Is your text big enough for people to see? Is it easy to navigate? And secondly, desktop versus mobile accessibility. A lot of people don't have mobile optimized websites. And honestly, nowadays, you should focus on a mobile first approach with your websites. I would recommend honestly building a site to look good on mobile first and then make it look good on desktop because chances are 90% of your users are going to be seeing your site on mobile. Now you can totally use this website called accessibleweb.com where you can put in background and foreground colors in order to see if you have an accessible contrast ratio. Now this might seem a little complicated, but really this is just saying that the text on top of your background is the right color in order to make it readable from users. Especially if you're newer to the website design game, you might have colors set up on your website that don't look the way that you want them to and you don't know why. Sometimes accessibility like this is the exact reason why. For example, if we have a background of, let's say, complete black, and then we have a foreground of, let's say, a red like this, you know this doesn't look good, but you might not know why. And this can give you actual numbers and reasons why this doesn't pass. If you see it fail on any of these, then chances are you need to make some changes. And you can change this by, for example, if we go from this very bright red to a slightly lighter red, we can see where that threshold is when it begins to pass. And we immediately know once this is passing, this automatically looks better than this would have looked being just this super bright red. This looks very old, it looks outdated, but if we lighten this up just a little bit and it begins to pass, then it makes it easier for our users to read on this website. So just before you launch any website, go in and put in your background color, put in your foreground color, whatever it may be, and make sure that your site passes on these accessibility terms. You can immediately see ones that pass look better on the right-hand side, and this really just gives you a number to tell yourself why they look better and why maybe something like this would look worse than something like this that completely passes. Now here we are in a GoHighLevel template, and when we're talking about designing mobile first, make sure whenever you're designing with mobile mode. Here's mobile mode on GoHighLevel, and you can immediately see ways that you can improve this sort of landing experience, and this is going to again tie back into UX. If we're seeing this on our mobile view, imagine what your customers are going to experience when they go to your website. First of all, looking at something like this, our big hero image right down here isn't even visible on the first load. So we want to make sure that our most important call to action and our most important information and visuals are striking people on their first load. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pieces of text which people have to go through before they even get to your striking visual. So with this site, for an example, yes, it's built by GoHighLevel. Yes, it's a template and it does look good, but there's little things like this that we can do in order to improve the site. And when it comes to user experience accessibility, I'm personally a big fan of making sure that the very first thing a user sees looks good on your website. Now, if you're wondering about tactile ways to clean this sort of thing up, maybe on your mobile version, you don't include all of this extra text. Maybe we get rid of this version by simply going to the right-hand side and then turning this off for the mobile view. Maybe also for the logo, rather than having this loading in also from the desktop mode where it's loading in on the far right. Maybe for mobile, we set this to go right in the middle. Then we can mess with some of the spacing on the top and bottom to give us a little less space. So that way we have some more room in order to show those visuals. Maybe we could even move our visuals up inside of our page in order to have them see what we're actually using first, as opposed to putting the visuals all the way at the bottom. Already something like this, where we have a headline, a visual, and then potentially if we moved this button up, this immediately is going to be a better performing landing page because we have a headline which describes our business, we have a visual that keeps them hooked, and then we have our call to action which is visible on the screen. Things like this are not only important for accessibility, but also important for conversions. You need your customers to actually see what you're doing on their first load. Again, it's just like a video. You're trying to hook them with your website. So be intentional about making these sorts of small changes that can make a big difference in your sales funnels conversions. So you know how to get good designs, good inspiration from the internet. I would totally go into all of this sorts of different things with padding and actually recreating a site from Figma, Framer, or Dribbble on GoHighLevel, but that would honestly just take forever. So we're going to be doing a live masterclass later this year going over building funnels. And also GoHighLevel just did one with Gustin Sun. He's fantastic at building funnels. So feel free to check that out as well at GoHighLevel's YouTube channel. But of course, the best way to use this is find a template you like and just recreate it in GoHighLevel. Adjust the padding, adjust the radiuses, adjust the background, take screenshots, and just recreate the site in GoHighLevel. You can totally do that with any of the sites that you find that you want to design. We also talked about accessibility with text sizes. We also talked about accessibility with colors and mobile optimization. Let's talk about the last thing, which is probably one of my favorite parts of this, which is engaging. Now let's talk about the last part, step 3 of my design process, which is interaction on our sales funnels and our websites. When we're talking about interaction, we're usually talking about code. Now, don't get scared. I swear it's not that hard, especially with AI. We can have AI write all the code for us and we don't have to do anything. We don't have to know how it works or anything, but I'm going to be going over how you can implement code in your websites from ChatGPT, the easiest ways, my tips and tricks, as well as a code pack. We have a couple of different documents with some cool pieces of CSS that you can throw into your website today. So let's talk about code and how you can make it easy for GoHighLevel. Okay, now for an example, this is a website that I designed with a good amount of code, and it's also built in GoHighLevel. We're using some of their templated sections. You probably recognize some of these sections from GoHighLevel's templates, but we're implementing a lot of code to implement things like hovers, to implement things like scrolling, this animation for the mouse, which I think is super cool, things like this loading animation for the header text, and some other things on the website. So how do we do this? What are some best practices? Let me dive in. First of all, I always like to say the very first thing people see on your website is going to matter a ton, and how it falls onto the page is crucial. I love fade in animations, scroll in animations, fade in from blurs, all different types of stuff like that. Even these drop ins like I just showed you with this header text right here. I love this and it looks really good when people first show up to the website. So how do we implement this the right way on GoHighLevel? Let me give you a secret. First thing, GoHighLevel with their websites, they preload information in a way that makes things kind of jarring whenever you go to their sites. They preload information, and that way, if you have things like fade-ins that you've implemented from GoHighLevel by doing things like, for example, clicking a piece of text, clicking an animation, and then adding in an entrance animation like this, we have a fade in right here. This will typically make that section of text or whatever element you're doing flash very briefly before it actually shows on. And I know it's something tiny, but it does contribute to the UX of the site itself. For example, take a look at this section right here, and then take a look at this tiny little email at the same time. We're going to do 2 loads. So first one, look at this section, this main section, whenever it loads, no flash, it just loads in immediately. So that system with no flash is what we're looking for. And if you want the smoothest entrance animations, especially for your headers, I would recommend doing it completely with code like this. And this is a really simple piece of code. This is really simple, so just stay with me real quick, okay? When we make elements with code, or when we add classes to elements in HighLevel, for example, this element of our text has this class of this pre-animate, animate words, bold, custom header. Think of a class as a stored preset, a template, an action that we can apply to multiple different things without having to rewrite the entire thing every single time. We can establish these classes up here in the custom CSS section. This is where we can establish our classes like cursor glow, or scroll scale, or cursor tail. Things like pre-animate, animating words, these different things. For example, we have a couple different things here for animating words. We make these classes inside of CSS and then we apply them to elements inside HighLevel. Another great example, right down here, we have some different elements here, which we added what I call the scroll scale class to, which we can see whenever we select one of these elements, like a column, go to styles, scroll down, there's that scroll scale. That is how you implement animations and things inside of HighLevel. So when you're talking to ChatGPT, especially when you're asking it to make code, ask it to create a basic fade in from blur or whatever you're looking for, piece of CSS, piece of JavaScript/HTML, along with a custom CSS establishment for custom classes. Now, when we ask it for this, what effectively we're getting is our fade in from blur. This is our JavaScript. When we're thinking about code, JavaScript and HTML is what stuff does, so like animations, and CSS is how stuff looks, and it also allows us to do our classes. So we're going to combine these here just right now. So for example, we have some HTML right here. Right here, we can copy this. We can paste this inside of a code element on the website. This is where we're establishing our animation, right? And this can be anything we want. We can tell ChatGPT, make it animate in from a dog or from a loading screen or whatever we want. It will write the code for us. Then we establish it by clicking plus, adding in a code element, and then we drop in that HTML right there. So now we have this HTML/JavaScript. It's the same thing. You can see our text right here, hello world. This text will fade in from blur. And then we're also getting a CSS style. So then we'll take our CSS and we'll paste this, yes, in the CSS section, right in the top. We can paste this down at the bottom, and then we can add these custom classes like text highlight, card, fade blur active, these different classes to elements that we want to use these classes for. And again, when you're trying to use an element with a class, all you have to do is find the element like an image or a section of text, scroll down on the right-hand side under styles, and then you can enter your custom class here. Once you add your class, click enter, and then it will be added to that element, and whatever animations you've established in your JavaScript and your CSS will then be applied to that element. That's how you code animations one time and apply it to multiple elements on your site. Now, having animations, engagements, and interactions like this on your site can be the difference from engaging with a user and giving them a pleasant experience on your site versus an experience that's just forgettable, like every other GoHighLevel website out there. Now, I obviously can't walk you through how to do every different type of animation on a website, but ChatGPT absolutely can. That's why we have AI. So let me show you what I would do in order to use ChatGPT the best way within this. What I would do is I would create a new chat or a folder and give it these instructions. Now what I would do is I would create a new chat or a new folder and give it these specific instructions. So I would give it 3 different sets of instructions. First, tell it that you build websites and GoHighLevel. Say you're using a web builder. Tell it that you're able to add custom JS and HTML blocks with code, and that you can add custom classes to existing elements, and that you can also add custom CSS to your website style sheet. Do you have to know what any of this means? Absolutely not. Just tell it this and it will give you instructions in order to actually implement it on your website. Second, tell it with each request it should think critically about how your code actually plugs into your setup, and then give yourself instructions to install the code and how to modify it simply. This will give you a setup so that way ChatGPT can kind of coach you through installing each piece of code on your website, especially if you're not tech savvy. If you are tech savvy and you understand code, then screw this, you don't really need it. Then you can just use your custom classes and you know what you're doing. But if you're brand new to code and it's kind of daunting, just use ChatGPT to give you instructions. It's a heck of a lot easier than trying to figure it out yourself. Lastly, of course, if you are new, tell it that you know nothing about code and to be concise and to the point. I use this instruction all the time with ChatGPT because they can go off the rails and give you way too much information sometimes. So tell it to be to the point, give you bullet points, and be very concise with its responses. Now, another cool thing about this is you can screenshot websites that you've probably found. Now, another cool thing about this Now, another cool way you can use this is you can screenshot websites from Framer, Template. Now, another cool way you can use this is you can screenshot websites from Figma, from Framer, Dribbble, all the other platforms, and put those websites into ChatGPT and tell it to design you those with code or give you instructions for how to set it up in HighLevel. Especially if you have different sections that you want to build with code, tell ChatGPT what you're looking for, and chances are it can build it for you. If you're looking for something that's really heavily based on code, I'd recommend using Lovable. I'll include a link to that in the description as well. We've talked about that before. But again, you can totally do all of this stuff on HighLevel. It just takes a bit of time. So if you want to have a regular sales funnel that looks like everyone else's, go for it. Make one on HighLevel, make one with the templates, don't do any major modifications, and you'll be okay. But if you want to have one that stands out, that makes you look like a professional in your industry, then follow those 3 design principles. First, implement thoughtful UI and UX design by looking at other templates online in order to make your site stand out. Second, make sure it's accessible, more importantly, mobile optimized. And third, make sure you have some sort of interactions and engagements that keep the user on the website. You really want to look at your website not as a place for information, but as a place for an experience. What experience are you giving your customers when they go to your website? Because every one of your customers is going there. So it has to be a good one. I hope this has given you a little bit of insight into design and my design process for high-level sales funnels. Am I the most qualified person in the world to talk about this? Absolutely not. There's lots of great funnel builders out there, but this is what I do. And I think you can totally utilize these resources along with ChatGPT, code, custom things, all of this in order to make your sites at least 1% better. And that's the goal. So as always, if you have questions about anything, feel free to drop it in the comments. I will answer to you personally. My name is Andrew. Welcome to How to Use HighLevel, and thank you very much for watching.